Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganangara Sadaka Chaksurun Meditam Yanatajmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yanabhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Seyata Parikamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Samsadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Larita Shivishikhan Vitam Sham Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Shrimpari Bhakti Padanta Swami Tirumani Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachadini Nirvishesa Sanyavadi Paskita Desatarini Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome to Transcendental Tuesday, which is special. Transcendental Tuesday is always transcendental, but today's Transcendental Tuesday is even more transcendental, if such could be said to be the case, because it's the appearance day of the protector of the devotees. Yes, the one who buffers between you and those who would seek to harm you. That is Lord Nrsimhadeva, the half-man, half-lion incarnation of the Lord. So important is he that at the end of every single arti ceremony, and there are between 3 and 6 in each one of the 820 Hare Krishna temples worldwide, we sing this song. It's written by Jayadev Goswami as part of the Das Avatar. He wrote a verse for each one of the 10 major incarnations of Lord Krishna, and this is the verse dedicated to Lord Nrsimhadeva, and it's sung in every Hare Krishna temple worldwide. Namaste Nrsimhayo, Namaste Nrsimhayo, La La Dadaya, La La Dadaya, Hiranya Kashipu Vaksha, Hiranya Kashipu Vaksha, Silatam Kanakalaye, Silatam Kanakalaye, Ito Nrsimha, Parato Nrsimha, Ta Nrsimha, Parato Nrsimha, Yato Yamita to Nrsimha, Yato Yamita to Nrsimha. Here sing Hare Nrsimha, here sing ho Hare Nrsimha, Nrsimhadevam Saranam Prapadaya, Nrsimhadevam Saranam Prapadaya, Tabakara Kamala Parinakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanu Bringham Kesavanita Narirupam Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Tabakara Kamala Parinakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanu Bringham Kesavanita Narirupam Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, 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 Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Nara Hari, 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 Jaya Nara Hari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramu, Hare Ramu, Rama Ramu, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramu, Hare Ramu, Rama Ramu, Hare Hare. Well, thank you for joining us on this very auspicious occasion. At the Salt Lake City Temple this evening, starting from 6 o'clock, there'll be a gala celebration with a talk, Abhishek. Wonderful feast. We'll have something more modest here in Spanish Fork with just the half a dozen devotees that we have. Nrsimha, GBC, and great friend, supporter of the Utah Yatra, passing through town on his way somewhere. He's very kindly agreed to visit us here sometime during the day here in Spanish Fork, as well as to give the main talk this evening in Salt Lake City. Something I'd recommend for you sometime today is to see the yatra conducted by Chandran Yatra Das, who appears to be an Indian body devotee from Australia. The GBC SPT interviewed him, and he has a wonderful slideshow about Ahovalam with lots and lots of pictures, lots of information. There appear to be about 7 or 8 major temples in Ahovalam. In Ahovalam, you see the pillar where Hiranya Kashipu is supposed to have touched with his sword, after which the Lord burst out from within that pillar. You see the place where Sanda and Amarka were said to have tutored Prahlad and his schoolmates in the Gurukul, certain elements of Hiranyakashipu's palace. The temples there have been managed for over 500 years by the followers of Ramanujacharya. They've done a great job according to Chandran Yatra. It seems to be the case from the pictures you see, and they're very hospitable, open and welcome and kindly and considerate of the iskcon devotees who visit there. We may not all be able to jump in a plane and go to Ahovalam, but the next best thing is to see the GBC SPT program done by Chandran Yatra, a virtual pilgrimage to all the places of Lord Nrsimha's pastimes. We decided to just tell the basic story, nothing fancy today, add any additional thoughts or throw in any slokas that intersect with our narrative. Not sure whether we'll take the full 45 minutes or not, but let's jump in and refresh our mind. Many of you have never heard this before, so it'll be new information. And some of you have heard it many, many, many times before. So I appeal to you, don't turn away thinking, oh yeah, I've heard this before. Actually, when you hear it the 100th time, you make more spiritual progress than when you hear it the first time. The first time it's new and fresh and stimulating and scintillating. But our process is a process of hearing repeatedly. Cheto darpanam arjanam babadavagni nirvapanam. Attentively, repeatedly, and to discuss the subject matter as much as possible, to always churn newer and newer insights out of it. But even if you should be insightful, insightless on any given day, still it is the process of surrender in bhakti yoga to hear submissively and to repeat what you hear. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Dasham, Sakyam, Atmanavedanam are the very words from the mouth of Prahlad Maharaj. 9 processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting. So we have, some of us, the opportunity to hear the same story for the 100th time. And if we hear it enthusiastically, attentively, with a sense of excitement, we'll be making more advancement on the 100th hearing than we did on the first hearing. This, Prabhupada would say, is our process. Sata Sri Krishna Namadi Nabhavedgurim Sevan Mukhi Jivado Shayamivas Pratyaraham. Beginning by chanting and hearing, we nourish, we water that little tiny creeper of bhakti, love of God, and thus cause it to wax, strengthen, and make its way ultimately up to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So the story starts out when Hiranya Kashipu, whose name means gold and soft bed, so you know where his priorities lie. He was one of two brothers. They were born of Aditi and Kashyapa, who joined sexually at an inopportune, inauspicious moment, the result of which these two brothers were born, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. They were described as a case of meningitis in the head of the universe, nothing but trouble. Lord Vishnu, Krishna, in the shape of a boar, killed Hiranyaksha, and Hiranyakashipu had a lifelong grudge against Lord Krishna, or Lord Vishnu. In an inimical way, he never stopped thinking of the Lord. Yata Vairani Bandhana Martistamayatam Natatabhagana Iti Me Nistita. Narada Muni says, sometimes he wonders, is it not the case that the demons who hate Krishna are more concentratedly meditating on him than even the devotees? And that may in fact be the case with such people as Hiranyakashipu, who had a terrible grudge against the Lord for having killed his dear brother. Kamsa was thinking of Krishna day and night. But it's not recommended to meditate on Krishna in enmity. If you do meditate on Krishna in enmity, you get liberation. It says elsewhere in this same 7th canto, the story is described. Kitapa sheshkritarira kudyam tar shamramavya vindite tat surupatam. Example is given of a worm, a glowworm, which is killed by a wasp. The glowworm lives in a bolt hole in a tree, and the wasp inserts itself into that bolt hole, kills the glowworm. As the glowworm sees the wasp coming to kill him, he thinks of that wasp in enmity. He hates that wasp. There's nothing in the world he hates more than that wasp. And of course, he's in full consciousness of that wasp at the time of leaving his body. So the result is that he becomes the wasp in his next life. Through enmity, that guides the transmission of his soul into the next body. So similarly, whatever you do in relationship to the Lord, it's recommended to always be favorable, to always render service, to put a smile on the face of the Lord. But he's going to treat you in the best way that he can anyway. Like a father has two sons, one's obedient, one's disobedient. He acts differently towards them, but he's not biased towards one and against the other. It's just that with a disobedient son, he has to raise his voice and shout and maybe even show the stick every once in a while. But that's how the father shows love to the disobedient son. The disobedient son leaves him no option but to act in a sort of a forceful way. Whereas the obedient son, there's no need for any of that. The obedient son does whatever the father wishes. The father is happy with the son. Whether you approach Krishna in enmity and friendship, it's going to be good for you. Krishna's going to do the best for you that he can. And so this example is given of the glowworm meditating at the time of death and the wasp in enmity and then taking his next birth as a wasp is an example which is used for people like Kamsa and Hiranyakashipu. It says, Vindite tat sarupatam. Sarupa means form. The glowworm is thinking of the form of the wasp, and it is into that form that he transmigrates in his next life. So similarly, Sisupal, Kamsa, Hiranyakashipu, they were all meditating on the Lord in enmity, and so they got their spiritual liberation. They got entrance into the kingdom of God in a spiritual form. So there's never any downside to interfacing with the Lord. We don't want the Lord to kill us in a big fight with blood and gore. We want the Lord to pat us on the head. And so we very favorably chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Take prasadam, make friends with the devotees, We don't try to impede or harass the devotees or cause any disturbances in the temples, because we want the smiling glance of the Lord upon us, not the frown. Whether he glances at you smilingly or frowningly, it's still going to do the very best good to you that can be done. But we want to have that sweet, loving relationship with the Lord. So in order to increase his powers for no good purpose, devotees can do austerities and non-devotees do austerities. Devotees do austerities to please the Lord. For instance, today is Nrsimha's appearance day, and the option is there to fast all day long until sunrise. Moonrise. And if you do that, the Lord is pleased. So we fast to please the Lord, not to increase any sort of demoniac powers in order to harass people in general. But those who are non-devotees, atheists, when they do an austerity, they do it in order to increase their powers so they can make others suffer and others cry. It was described that Hiranya Kashipu did a severe type of austerity for 125 years, I believe the information is, by the calculation of the demigods. He was standing on one leg in a secluded desert area for so long that the ants ate the flesh off of his bones. He was standing as a skeleton, circulating his life air within the bones of his skeletal structure. Finally, Lord Brahma came to him and was more or less obliged to offer him boons. Now, Hiranya Kashipu asked the ultimate, that he never die, that he become immortal. Those who don't believe in God, they don't believe in God, but they want to become God. They're not comfortable with their own mortality, but they want to become immortal like God's immortal. Hiranya Kashipu was no different. He asked Lord Brahma, grant me a boon that I never die. Lord Brahma said, I can't give you something that I don't have. Lord Brahma's lifetime is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Abrahma bhuvanalakapara sahasra yuga paryatamahayat ratram yuga sahasram heo ratri vidarjana. Cycle of 4 yugas is 4,300,000 years. 1,000 of those make up 1 day of Lord Brahma. So it's at 4,300,000 years. And then that 4,300,000 times 1,000 times 2 is 1 day and night period, 1 24-hour period of Lord Brahma. Multiply that by 7, you get a week. Multiply it by 4, you get a month. Multiply that by 12, you get a year, and multiply it by 100. And Lord Brahma lives 100 years, which is 311 trillion years by our calculation. But still, at the end, he has to die. Brahma bhuvanalaga panaru mamupeti panarjanmana vidyate. Bhagavad Gita says from the highest planet, which is that of Lord Brahma, down to the lowest planet, they're all places of birth and death, where misery takes place. Unless you transcend, seek, and aim for the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet in the spiritual world, even Lord Brahma, the biggest and most powerful of all the demigods, has to die. Hiranya Kashipu did a bit of quick calculation after having been turned down by Lord Brahma. And then he sort of had a fallback position. He asked Lord Brahma, well, grant that I be never killed in the day or the night. Brahma said, I can do that. And then he asked that he not be killed on the land or on the air or in the water. Lord Brahma agreed to do that. Then he asked that he not be killed by any man or beast. Lord Brahma agreed. He asked that he not be killed inside the house or outside the house. Lord Brahma agreed. Not by day nor by night. Lord Brahma agreed. And finally he asked, let me not be killed by any man or beast. Lord Brahma agreed. He said, let me not be killed by any weapon. Lord Brahma agreed. Hiranya Kashipu was like, yes, I got immortality. Not directly, but I'm so clever. I think so well on my feet that I extracted all these boons from Lord Brahma in such a way that I may not have achieved immortality, but nobody can kill me, so it's the same thing, isn't it? Then he took those benedictions, and as I said before, He became more and more evil, more and more cruel. He conquered the demigods. He sat on the throne of Indra, the king of heaven, and with each new victory and increase in his power, the demigods, who are the caretakers of peacefulness, righteousness, religious functions, they became more and more worried. How and who is going to curb this demon? It seemed like he was unstoppable. It seemed as if there was no way to right all the wrongs that he was performing. So they went to Lord Vishnu and they said, what do we have to do to get you to step in? We can't beat him with weapons. We can't defeat him inside the house or out of the house, or day or night or land or air or water. We can't touch the guy. And you're smarter than all of us put together. You're the creator of the universe. You're unlimitedly intelligent. You're in control. You wouldn't have allowed Hiranya Kashipu to get these wounds from Brahma unless you knew a way, unless you knew a loophole already. So what's your plan? And then Lord Vishnu told the Gomads, Nirvadaya Prashanti Ashashut Pradada Yadida Denishe Pivarorjitam. Nirvadaya Prashantaya. Hiranyakashipu will have a son. The son's name will be Prahlad. He'll be peaceful. He'll be equipoised. He'll be friendly towards all living. Nirvadaya Prashanti Ashashuta Mahatmana. He'll be a Mahatma. Devim he Mahatmanastu Mamparda Devim Prakritim. He won't have any interest in the demoniac nature. Even though he's born of a demoniac family, he has, you might say, scientists would say, he's got the genes of a demoniac father, demoniac uncles. He himself will be just the opposite. He'll be a Mahatma. He'll have taken complete shelter at my lotus feet. He'll have nothing to do with the external energy. He'll be totally sheltered in the internal energy, as is the definition of Mahatmas. Nirvadaya Prashanti Ashashuta Pradada Yadida Denishe Pivarorjitam. So, in spite of all the atrocities that Hiranyakashipu has done so far, and I know you're wondering why I haven't stopped him to date, I'm waiting until he does the unthinkable. I'm waiting until he does the unforgivable. I'm waiting till he crosses that line that he can never go back. And that line is at such time as he offends my pure devotee who is peaceful, equipoised, and friendly to all living beings. At the time he offends his own son Prahlad Maharaj, then I'll kill him. In spite of Dineshe Pivarorjita, in spite of the benedictions of Lord Brahma, formidable benedictions. If you're hearing this story for the first time, you can't see any way that Hiranyakashipu could be killed, considering all those benedictions, can you? But Krishna says, I always have a way where others don't have a way. I'm just waiting for him to do the unthinkable, the unforgivable. Krishna can absorb insults for himself. Look at Sisupalos, insulted Krishna 100 times. Hiranyakashipu was a living, breathing insult to Vishnu. Doesn't bother Krishna. He doesn't get upset. He doesn't have a bad day because somebody insulted him. He doesn't have a good day because we glorify him. He's always full of bliss and ecstasy. Whether you dislike him, whether you like him, whether you worship him, whether you deny him, whether you rant and rave at him, it's not going to affect his mood at all. He's always cool and calm, peaceful, and self-satisfied. But when one offends his devotee, that's when where Krishna draws the line. He will tolerate offenses to himself, but he will not tolerate offenses to his devotees. So in due course of time, Prahlad had a son. Hiranyakashipu had a son named Prahlad. Initially, the demigods were taking Prahlad's pregnant, Hiranyakashipu's pregnant wife. Prahlad's mother was pregnant with him. They were taking her away while Hiranyakashipu was doing more austerities. They thought that when the child is born, they would kill him. But Narada Muni said, no, you can't do that. give me the child, give me the mother, let the mother come and live in my ashram. I will read Srimad Bhagavatam to the child in the womb. He's not a demon like his father. He's a great devotee. So I do not allow you to go and take him away. Um, their reasoning was if the father's so bad, the son will be twice as bad. But Narada Muni said, no, the son is different. In fact, it says, what is it? Daitye Chandanavata Yatakam Yan Mulan Mulanur Vishnu Nadyato Bhagaham. When Vishnu talked about the future death of Hiranya Kashipu, he said that sometimes in a forest of hard wood, sometimes in a forest of hard wood, you can't cut those trees down because the trunks of the trees are so hard that the axe handles break. When you make the axe handles out of any other sort of wood, they break when you hit this ironwood trees. But if you take an axe handle from one of the trees itself, then that one axe handle created from the same sort of hardwooded trees you can use to cut down the whole forest. So it was the Lord's arrangement that Prahlad, a great devotee, take birth in a family of demons because in the future he would be that axe handle which would bring about the destruction of all the demons themselves. So initially, Hiranyakashipu doted upon his boy, had so many plans for Prahlad to follow in his footsteps, to control and dominate the universe in the same way that he did. But he came to find out that Prahlad preferred not to follow the demoniac disciplic succession, not to swallow the teachings of Sanda and Amarka, the sons of Sukracharya, but to chant Hare Krishna. And not only was Prahlad not influenced by the demoniac surroundings, the materialistic surroundings in which he had been born, but he started preaching to his schoolmates, who were all the sons of the generals and secretaries and prime ministers of Hiranyakashipu, and he started getting his schoolmates chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He became a real preacher of Bhagavad Dharma. Anytime the teachers left the room, Prahlad would gather the schoolmates together, and instead of doing foolish, childish, mindless things, he would bring out the Bhagavatam, he would discuss, he would have a great rousing kirtan until such time as the teachers came back and were shocked. So they took him to Hiranyakashipu and they said, we don't know what to do with this boy. Every time we leave the room, he preaches Krishna consciousness. And whatever we preach to him about diplomacy and warfare and all just rolls off of his back. Hiranyakashipu takes the boy in his lap and he says, my dear boy, what have you learned in school today? And Prahlad says, I didn't learn anything in school, but I do know one thing. And Hiranyakashipu, expecting some childish, imaginative nonsense to come out of the mouth of his child. What did you learn, my dear boy, my 5-year-old boy? Prahlad says, Tatsara manye suryavari denam sada samadmegna dyamasha hidvadmegdam griyaman venangatim hadarim ashayatam. He said, those who are attached to material acquisition, material aggrandizement, wealth, name, and fame live in constant anxiety. For such people, there's no peace, there's no shelter, there's no satisfaction. He said, my dear father, O best of the demons, you would do yourself a great favor if you abdicated your throne, turned it back to the demigods, and went to the forest, specifically holy places like Vrindavan, and chanted the holy names of the Lord. Thus you'll become free of anxiety. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And further on, Prahlad said to his father, Jahi ashram imam nam napanam samomana satam riteditadu patashiti tadihi anantasya mahat samaranam. He said, better you, instead of being involved in this world of names only, in this false sense of proprietorship and possession, it says, Jahi asaram imam tom atmanam. Better you put aside this demoniac mentality, What is the demonic mentality? You want to exploit the resources of this world. And so therefore, those who will ally with you in terms of family, friends, and country to help exploit this world, those are your friends. Those who are allied with another party and they are trying on their own to exploit it and who will eventually come into conflict with you, those are your enemies. And those who haven't done either yet, haven't made their choice, which band of crooks they're going to join, whether it's going to be your band of crooks or another band of crooks to oppose you, those you haven't made up your mind about. So the source of the anxiety of someone like Hiranya Kashipu is everyone you see, instead of just accepting them as part and parcel of Krishna, Vidya Vinay Sampade Brahmani, the enlightened soul sees all living beings as sons and daughters of God. He's friendlily disposed to all living beings. He has no enemies or friends or neutral parties for that matter. Prahlad points out to his father, you're always categorizing and calculating the standing of everyone who you meet in order to decide whether they're going to help you exploit the material world, whether they're going to oppose you, or whether you can co-opt them at some time in the future. So, where is peace? Where is peace? And you can't have happiness unless you have peace. So he says, better you become equipoised. Better you think of God and ground, orient your consciousness to the Supreme Father of all of us. That way you'll see every living being as Krishna's part and parcel. So please give up your demonic mentality. Please give up your materialistic ambitions. Prepare to retire. Give up the source of all your anxiety and your stress and your enmity. Prepare to go to the forest and have your mind calmed, subdued, equipoised, absorbed and submerged in the thoughts of the Supreme Personality of God. Well, these were not childish imaginations on the part of Prahlad. This was the absolute truth coming like a sword out of the mouth of Prahlad. Om Gyana Sambhutam Richtam Chidbanam Yogasham Jakvatishta Parampara. It says the words of the saintly persons, the duty of Krishna conscious persons is not to speak in such a way as to reinforce people's material appetites, desires, and ambitions. But the words of devotees should act like a sword to cut the hridaya granthi, the hard knot of attachment to material existence. And we all need to earn money. We all need to support. We want to have a family. We want to have we want to have amenities. But as we talked about yesterday, one should not try unnecessarily. One should accept only the minimum necessities of life because we live in a world of names. Any effort above and beyond the minimum to keep body and soul together is going to be a total waste of time with no more significance than the foam that washes up as a result of the waves lapping on the beach. Hiranya Kashipu became so angry at his own son. Sometimes we think of Hiranya Kashipu as being just aggressive. Prahlad was non-offensive, mild, peaceful, and Hiranya Kashipu was just excessive. I mean, imagine killing your own son. But when you think about it in another way, Prahlad was, he was subverting, he was co-opting the entire upcoming, his peers, his whole generation with Krishna consciousness. He wouldn't stop preaching. If he had agreed to put everything on the shelf, I mean, after all, he's eventually going to be king. Hiranya Kashipu is going to have to retire sooner or later. And if Prahlad had played his cards close to his chest, kept a low profile, and not created waves, he could have just waited until he became king, and then he could have done whatever he wanted. But the kid was incorrigible. Hiranya Kashipu says, why don't you show a little common sense? why are you asking for it? You he said, children should be seen and not heard. And he even compared Prahlad to the curving tail of a dog. You can't, if a dog has a curved tail, you can iron it, you can do whatever you want, but you can't straighten the curved tail of a dog. So Prahlad Maharaj, at 5 years old, even though he had no power, he was totally helpless, he was dependent upon his father, he was surrounded by all kinds of demons, he couldn't not preach, he couldn't not glorify Krishna. I'm reminded of the story about Mirabai, the great Rajasthani princess, and she was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. She actually saw Krishna as her husband. And she was married off to a man by an arranged marriage who was a good enough man, but his whole family worshiped Durga and they ate meat. So she refused. Normally if a woman goes to the house of a husband as his wife, she would kind of subordinate her background and key and focus on the husband. And that would have been the safest course for Mirabai, of course. It would have been the healthiest. But she wouldn't. She wouldn't stop worshiping Krishna. She refused to cook meat in the kitchen because it was not offered to Krishna. And her in-laws eventually plotted to kill her. They gave her poison. She offered the poison to Krishna. She ate it. Nothing happened. Finally, they said, what is it going to take to make you give up your Krishna consciousness and go along with the crowd? And she held up a pot, an earthen pot, and she said, what would it take to separate the earthenness from this pot? He says, I am Krishna conscious in every molecule. I'm Krishna conscious in the core of my heart. I'm totally Krishna conscious. I'm bought and sold out. Krishna is my husband. Krishna is my Lord. Everything is Krishna. You're Krishna. Krishna's in your hearts. Krishna's in the hearts of my enemies. Krishna's in the hearts of those who would wish to do me wrong. So just as you cannot take the earth out of an earthen pot, you can't make me not Krishna conscious. You can't. It's not a belief. It's not a practice. It's not a religion. It's me. I am Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. Krishna Jiva Rashray. Nitya Krishna Das. It's who I am, and in fact, it's who you are. You just haven't realized it yet. So Prahlad Maharaj couldn't wait. He couldn't be discreet. He couldn't bide his time. He just had to glorify Krishna, which makes me want to say the mantra right now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Hiranya Kashipu tried to kill his own son because, in one sense, that 5-year-old boy, because he wouldn't shut up and he wouldn't stop chanting, he wouldn't stop preaching, had the potential to subvert his whole kingdom. And he felt that Prahlad was his #1 enemy, even more than the demigods who he fought in pitched battles and conquered. So he tried to kill him. First, he threw him amongst cannibals. Cannibals tried to pierce his body, eat him. They were not able to do so. Prahlad was always chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then his father ordered him thrown into boiling oil, but because he was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he wasn't burned by the oil. He felt it was cooling, just like a cool bath on a hot summer day. And then Hiranya Kashipu put him on a small island in the path of a huge hurricane, but the winds didn't bother Krishna. They gave him a pass. They went around him as he chanted, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then Hiranya Kashipu threw Prahlad Maharaj off of a very, very high cliff, but he just chanted the names of the Lord, and the Lord caught him at the bottom of the mountain. After which, Hiranyakashipu, getting more and more infuriated and frustrated, he called up a war elephant, his biggest, meanest war elephant, and threw Prahlad underneath the feet of that war elephant. But the war elephant did not only not trample Prahlad, but he picked him up very gently with his trunk and he put him on top of his head. When that didn't work, Hiranyakashipu ordered his guards to throw Prahlad into a snake pit filled with venomous serpents. And Prahlad just chanted, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the snakes were in their own way, they were chanting Hare Krishna. So then Hiranyakashipu tried a different tact. He said, Prahlad, I'm so sorry. You obviously have some mystic powers. I give up. I can't kill you. Let's let bygones be bygones. Let's have lunch together. So they sat down, they had lunch, and unbeknownst to Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu had put poison in Prahlad's food, such a virulent poison that it was capable of killing 10,000 elephants or hundreds and hundreds of full-grown men. So Prahlad first offered the food to Krishna. Sarera vijaja jitendriya tahika jive fele visaya sigari dharmajati vayati lo maya suramati takejeta katina samsare. Then he ate the food, which had become, in the meantime, pure and free from all poisonous effects. And when the poison had no effect on Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu became so enraged that he threw Prahlad on the floor. Prahlad was not hurt. Hiranyakashipu said, where do you get your superpowers from? Prahlad again, very mildly and factually, told his father, Kevalas me bhagavirasya rajam sabai balam balam chapeswaram pare vare me stira jangari brahmadyo yena bisham pradita. Where do I get my powers from, Dad? You really want to know? I get my powers from the same place you get your powers from. You and I get our powers from the same place that everybody else gets their power from. The source of all power is one, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And he's everywhere. And everything comes from him. Hiranyakashipu, thinking logically and rationally and in a mundane way, he said, well, if your God is everywhere, is he in that pillar? Is he in this pillar on this porch where we're standing? Prahlad said, yeah, he's in the pillar. Prahlad looked in the pillar, and although Hiranyakashipu couldn't see him, Nrsimhadeva was in the pillar like that, getting ready, limbering up, doing his pre-fight exercises there. At which point, are you sure he's in the pillar? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? So he took his sword and he wound up like Barry Bonds to hit a home run out of the park. And he unwound and launched a huge blow at that pillar. And as soon as his mace or sword or whatever it was touched the pillar, this unbelievable, never before seen amalgam of lion and man, a mixture of man and lion, not man nor beast, but half man, half beast, with no weapons per se, but fingernails like iron, appeared before Hiranyakashipu and engaged him in combat. Now, according to all the boons of Lord Brahma, it wasn't inside the house or outside of the house. It was on the porch. It wasn't a man or beast, but it was a half man or half beast. Lord Nrsimha was not fighting with any weapons, but he was fighting with his fingernails. And the fight went on. It started late afternoon, but the Lord prolonged the fight because another part of the boon from Lord Brahma was that he not be killed in the day or the night. So the Lord fought with him for an hour or so until it became just twilight, not day nor night. And then he was not to have been killed on land or air or sky. So just at the right moment, at the right time, in the right form, and with the right implements, Lord Nrsimhadeva, the ferocious protector of his pure devotees, stretched Hiranyakashipu across his lap, right? Not on land, not on water, not on air, but on the lap of the Lord. Hiranya Kashipu was stretched, and with the Lord's long nails, he ripped apart the stomach of the demon, took out his intestines. Sorry for the graphics here. Took out the intestines of the demons and garlanded himself like that. So as you've already figured out, he wasn't killed in the land or in the air, but he was killed on the lap of the Lord. He was killed neither during the day or the night, but in the twilight he was killed neither by beast nor man, but by the Lord's lotus hands with no weapons, but by the nails of Lord Nrsimhadeva. Thus, Hiranyakashipu's benediction from Lord Brahma remained intact, and he was killed by the personification of fear, Krishna himself, in his half-man, half-lion form, Lord Nrsimhadeva. Later on, Lord Brahma came with all the demigods to offer respects to Krishna. And Krishna said to Brahma, he said, okay, I took care of it. I saved face. I didn't have to, but I respected all the conditions, all the boons that you'd given Hiranyakashipu, so that you wouldn't lose face, that you wouldn't be proved wrong. Everything's turned out fine, and it was frankly a lot of fun for me to have to fight him and protect my devotee. However, Lord Brahma, please don't make this a habit. I can do this once in a while, but and it's fun. It's a nice change of pace. But please don't make a habit of giving demons benedictions. Just like you don't want to give a poisonous snake milk. You think you're doing the snake a favor. You think the snake will be ingratiated and partial to you. That's not the case, because the milk only increases the amount of poison the snake has in its glands. And the more poison it has in the glands, the more agitated and envious it is, and the more likely it is to bite. So don't, just like we don't feed a venomous snake milk, so don't get in the habit of giving these demons benedictions. But then the Lord wanted to give Prahlad a benediction, because through thick and thin, through the worst sort of torture and harassment, poisoned, put in a snake pit, thrown off of a cliff under the feet of a war elephant, thrown in amongst cannibals, put in hot oil. Prahlad just chanted. His faith in the Lord wasn't altered, even an iota. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So Nrsimhadeva asked Prahlad, please, I want to do something for you. I'm so impressed with your faithfulness, your steadfastness. Let me offer you a boon. And Prahlad said, Nanyata te kira guru gatita kara yashta ashish nasa brija savibare. Brija means businessman. Businessmen, they give something to get something. That's what commerce means. The whole world of commerce is giving, getting, quid pro quo, tit for tat. How much does this cost? How much should I give you in order to get that? Prahlad says, I'm not a businessman. I don't worship you in order to get something from you. Note, all over the world, when religious people, so-called God-conscious people, go to the temple, the synagogue, the church, or the mosque, why do they go? Exactly to get things from God. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Give us our daily bread. Give us a promotion. Give us a bigger house. Give me health. Give me. Prahlad says, I'm not a gimme person. I'm not asking what God can do for me. I'm asking myself what I can do for God. Lord, I'm your servant. And every time I chant your holy name, I merge myself in an ocean of ecstasy. I don't need these so-called items of happiness from a materialistic culture. All I need in order to feel unlimited happiness rising up from inside is just to chant your holy names and serve you without any motive. If I were to have a motive, if I were to serve you for a reason, if I had a condition, that would spoil the whole mood. It would no longer be relishable. I serve you because I am your servant. Savai pum sam parodamo yato bhakti ahaituki yatmasi prasidati. Sukadeva Goswami, the great authority, son of Vyasadeva himself, says, Savai pum sam parodharmo, the highest occupational duty of the human being especially, Savai pum sam yato bhakti, is to engage in devotional service to that Lord who is transcendental, here on Transcendental Tuesday, beyond the range of our senses. And what should be the characteristics of that service? Ahaituki apratiyata. In order to fully satisfy the soul, which has nothing to do with name, fame, wealth, followers, beautiful women. None of that can satisfy the soul in the least part. That service, which leads to the highest meaning and purposefulness and ecstasy, is ahaituki. It is unmotivated and it is uninterrupted. We don't serve the Lord in order to get something, and we don't serve the Lord and then take a break from now and then. We serve the Lord in order to get more service. Queen Kunti says, as the Ganges, it doesn't flow intermittently. The Ganges doesn't flow into the Bay of Bengal some days. It flows all days. It flows interruptedly. And it flows because that's what it does. The Ganges doesn't get up one morning and say, to flow or not to flow. Should it today be a flow day or a not flow day? That's the nature of water. It flows uninterruptedly from higher to lower. Similarly, true bhakti, the true function of the soul, is to flow uninterruptedly and unconditionally towards the lotus feet of the Lord. And that is the only way for us to achieve full and complete satisfaction in this life and next life. Go back to home, back to Godhead. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Lord Nrsimhadev ki jai. Thank you very much. If you've heard the story for the first time, as Britta has, I hope that it's been enlivening to you. Natasha probably would have heard that story for the first time as well. Rakesh would not have heard it for the first time. Anjali would not have heard it. Ram Kishore would not have heard it for the first time. Jean, I'm not sure, maybe. Raleigh, it's not the first time, but one of the few times he's heard the story. Mahatma says, good morning, Mahatma. Good morning to all. Protection to all. Jaya Nrsimhadev. Bhakti Gary, thank you. Subhadra, Sanjay, Hare Krishna. Thanks to all of you for joining me on this auspicious day. Try to think of Lord Nrsimhadev through the day, if you're capable of it. Try to please him by fasting until the evening. If you're near the Salt Lake City Temple, visit them for the wonderful celebrations this evening with the special guest Nrsimha. We'll also have a smaller observance of it here with our half a dozen or so devotees. Try to access the GBC SBT PowerPoint of Chandran Yatra, which takes you to Ahovalam, the places where all these incidences that I just described occurred. And if you know it, chant today as many times as possible. Tava kara kamala bare nakam adbhuta shingam dalita hiranya kashipu danu bringam kesavadvita narhadirupahum jaya jagadisha hari. Jaya Jagadisha Hari, Jaya Jagadisha Hari, Jaya Nrsimhadev, 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 Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Thank you. Till tomorrow, Wednesday. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.